we are making a video this week on ring filing. This is the same 5.3 LC9 aluminum block that I showed you guys last week, where we talked a little bit about chasing the threads and all of the different holes. First things first, we got our tool here, and this is literally just for lining up the rings inside the cylinder. So I can put this in any one of these cylinders, kind of drop it in. I pull up the ring to the bottom of those cylinders, and it perfectly lines up the ring within the cylinder bore. So these rings are going into this block, which is going to be a stock build. This is going to be 20 thousandths over bore. Just so you know, these are aluminum. They aren't going to hurt the bores at all if we put them in there, as long as we don't beat the crap out of it. It's not a big deal. You can get these tools on, I think, Amazon or pretty much anywhere. They're readily available. So anyway.
So there is a formula, because there's always a formula. Rule of thumb is 4 thousandths of end gap on the ring per inch of bore size. But when you do a hypereutectic piston, you transfer a lot more heat through the hypereutectic piston to the top ring. Because of all the extra heat the top ring has to handle, you have to increase the end gap in your ring. And this is any time you're using a hypereutectic piston. So you need a 40% increase. And then this is on a 4-inch bore. Rule of thumb would be 16 thousandths. Increase it by 40%, and you're looking for 22 thousandths. This is a 5.3, so we are under a 4-inch bore, but I still factored it on a 4-inch bore because a couple thousandths extra ring gap is not going to hurt anything. As you might have heard a lot of times on different channels, if you put a little extra gap in your ring, nobody will know. If you don't put enough gap in your ring, everybody will know. So if you end up with a couple extra thousandths, that is much better than not having enough. So this one I got to take a little bit more off. So I've got these set up. This one's 20 thousandths. That one's 22 thousandths. The 20 goes in real easy, not a problem. The 22 does not go. So we need to put a couple more thousand in there. And this is a manual ring filer. This is as basic as it gets. We don't have anything fancy, so there's a lot of his feel, just doing it over and over to get a square cut. So one good piece of advice if you're using this type of ring filer, only file one side of the ring. Reason is, you can assume the factory has made a relatively square cut, so if you only file one side, you can butt them together to make sure that your cut is square. So you always leave this one uncut, so you know that that one is straight and square. So I can butt these together, and I can see I don't have any weird gap at the top or the bottom, so we know we have a nice square cut. I always want to file the burrs off, because you will get burrs. One thing I've seen, guys will not cut that straight, and they'll cut it crooked like this. And what that will lead to, these guys are usually going 1,000 miles an hour, and they want to get it together now, and they don't pay enough attention. But what I have seen is, so if you've got that little bit of angled cut, and you've taken more off of here than you have here, is guys will just throw the feeler gauge in there and it'll start to go. But what they don't pay attention to is you want to make sure that it goes all the way flat against the cylinder. That way you know that you didn't cut it crooked, and you know it could be big here, so the feeler gauge falls in that far and they call it good. And the problem is they didn't take it all the way to the cylinder wall. It's not enough gap here, and it will butt together. So this one I got to take a little more off because the 20 is going in without a problem. My 22 still is a little snug, so just got to give it another quick 0.5 thousandths, which obviously there's no way to measure that on this.
As you see, he's turning that handle counterclockwise so that the wheel is actually pushing the ring back against this little stop right here.
Because if you spin it this way, and if you watch really close, you can see what it does. It wants to pull the ring away. You're not going to get a square cut. So by going this way, it will pull it into that little holder, and it will hold it stable. And filing rings is not one of my favorite things to do. It's boring, it's tedious, It'd be a lot quicker if we had one of them super cool electrical ones with the gauge, and I could put the feeler gauge in, say we need to take 4 thousandths off, stick it in there, know exactly what 4 thousandths would be, and we'd be done. But we're not that high tech. We ain't got it like that.
But then we couldn't be grumpy and complain about things as much if we had all those nice tools.
I gotta maintain my Gen X anger.
That's right. So there we go. He's pulling the ring up to the stop. So I'll take the stop out. And
there we go.
he's going to go in with the 22.
And that feels much better.
Yep, should drag just a little bit.
So you can see the 20 will fall right in. There's no drag. That's how you know it's bigger than 20. 22, it will hold itself in there. I didn't have to force it, but it'll hold itself. That's exactly 22. If I grab a 23, let's see what we got here.
It's a badass Band-Aid.
And in case you're wondering why I need that, LS cams are very sharp on the edge of every lobe. So you can see 23 will not go in at all. It'll start, but I really have to force it.
Not gonna do it.
So I take 13 away, put my 12, I lost it. We're back to 22, and 22 goes right in nicely.
Sweet.
So if I missed it by a thousandth and it was 23, not the end of the world. Nobody would ever know. Stock rebuild, wouldn't smoke, wouldn't have any problems. Again, if you are going to err on the side of caution when it comes to ring gap, always give it slightly more, not slightly less.
So, do we have to gap the oil rings?
You have to check them. Oil rings are a little bit different animal because you only need these are oil rings.
Our workbench is a mess right now, but this is just test fitting, so we'll be cleaning all of this before we do a final assembly.
So your little thin steels for the oil rings, as long as you have, I would say 10,000 on these, they're going to be fine. It's very rare that you have to give any extra clearance to these or have one that was manufactured to where you've got to take a little off. It does happen, and that's why you have to check everything. I would say 95% of the people would not even bother checking ring gap on a stock rebuild, and if I wouldn't have, it might have been fine, but my OCD won't allow it, so I check them. And then these were 19 is where they were all at, and the instructions say 22, and I always assume that the people that design and build all of this stuff know more about it than I do. And if they say at least 22, that's what I'm doing.
Yep, so as you can see, we've got all of these gapped, cut and gapped. So now, what we're gonna do is do the other side, which is these guys here, and we'll continue on.
So just for fun, I'll flip this over and I'll stick an oil ring in there, and we will see. And if one fits, I put a 10 in there, 10 was loose. So if we've got more than 10, that's pretty much all we need to know on those. So oil rings are going to be fine. Second ring here, these were all fine on the other side. I didn't have to take any off of them. The second ring on a hyperprotective piston, you do not have to put extra gap in. You can run just your standard gap that you would run. So the hyperprotective just puts a lot more heat through the top ring. And again, that's why it needs extra end gap on it. I'm not a fan of hyperprotective pistons, but never have been. But you do a stock rebuild, that's what they sell for them. So that's all you can get, and we just build them accordingly. We could get away with 16 on the end gap. I'm using the 20. If I can get the 20 in there, no problem.
Some people might ask, why isn't it a big deal on the second ring as opposed to the top ring? And I'll say that the top ring experiences a lot more heat than the second ring does because it's closer to the combustion cycle. So you're going to get more heat transfer in the top ring and in the top of the piston than you would in the middle ring land.
Right, and more thermal expansion on the top ring. Now with that being said, I still like to have the rings. If this was a performance build, I would probably put 2 thousandths more gap in the second ring because there is a possibility that you can get trapped gases between your top ring and your second ring. If your second ring is gapped tighter, you don't give it anywhere to escape because you're going to have some blow by on every engine. Obviously, you try to keep it to a minimum by getting your ring gap correct, but there will be some. So the effect of having trapped gases between your top and second ring. Could lead to ring flutter, and in a performance engine, that's all bad. So you actually will gap your second ring a couple thousandths more than your top ring. So if that happens, if you get the trapped gases, it gives it a chance to escape, hopefully eliminating chance of getting the ring flutter.
All right, so that I think concludes our ring video today. And check us out next week. We will do probably some cam bearing stuff. We'll show you how to clearance a cam bearing, and then we may even put together a short block. So stay tuned. Have fun with yourselves.